I'm Megan, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We have a great topic to talk about. Let's introduce our panel. We have Patrick Cahill, president of Twice as Nice Recruiting. Patrick, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for doing this, Megan.
Of course, and Caralie Coleman, our VP of Recruiting here at Twice as Nice, also joins us. Caralie, how are you?
Not too shabby over here.
Always not too shabby, not too bad. I love it. Well, awesome. We have a great topic to talk about because we're talking about the data behind your search results and the data behind your ads. So there's always a story behind some data, and it's certainly true when it comes to recruitment. So what is your data telling you? We'll get into it, but first, let's introduce ourselves. We are Twice as Nice Recruiting, where we do one thing, and that's permanent placement recruiting. We build every single search from scratch. We have a 9.9% placement fee, and we guarantee your placements for 18 months. We've worked with more than 1,800 clients to fill roles across the board, and today, we're redefining recruitment. All right, so there's a ton of data when it comes to any online search, when it comes to recruiting. There's a ton of numbers and facts that you can pull from this. So I think if we kind of break it down and talk about some individual data points, that can really help our listeners and viewers. So the first question is, if your ad just isn't getting noticed at all, if you're not getting any impressions or clicks, no one's starting an application, just no one's kind of engaging with it at all. Caralie, what do you think that means? What is that data telling them?
So there's a number of things it could be telling us, but I just wanted to start off by saying that it really could be impacted by the role type that you're hiring for or the location where you're recruiting. And so more can be going into these impressions and click rates and application rates than just what we're covering. But to start off, if there's no impressions, I would say there's a chance that everything's wrong and we need to just start fresh. But I'd be looking at what title are you using? Is it a common title, one that people would be searching for themselves? Is your salary way off from other jobs that are being advertised in the area for similar roles? And the location, like I had mentioned previously. So if you have a role that's on site, you might not get as much attention as if it's a remote role or a hybrid role. And so if you're able to make some adjustments in terms of your on-site requirements, that can definitely make some improvements on your impressions.
Then what are impressions? And how would they be different than, say, clicks or application starts?
Great question. So impressions are people having your role show up in their search. And so it means that they might be looking for a sales role and you're one of the many sales roles that are showing up, and they get a brief snippet before they decide to click and look further into your role. So impressions means how many people had the opportunity to potentially dive deeper and find more out about you and what you're hiring for.
That makes sense. If the title is off and someone's searching for specific keywords and your title's off, they may not come across your job description. So this seems like it's really important.
A tip/trick that I've learned from Caralie on the impression side of things is for many roles, LinkedIn could be a really quick tool to get an idea of what may be the problem if you're not getting impressions. And so look at the region you're trying to recruit and just type in the title that you're using, and maybe type in a different title for a similar type of role. Are there more one way or the other? Or type in some of the certifications or skills you're looking for the region you're looking to recruit. If you're looking to hire remote and you're using tools like ZipRecruiter, you might want to look for what city should I market this remote role for, because some tools limit your ability to look nationwide. And so you might be better off precision striking on specific cities that are maybe more target rich for that type of talent. Now, after impressions, there's the click. And if you're getting impressions, so your title, your description, it's getting thrown into the results, but you're not seeing candidates actively clicking to learn more, there are really only a couple things that might suggest isn't right there. The big one could be the pay is off or you're not sharing it. The other, it could be that if you're using a tool that provides an employer rating and your rating is starting to fall, you may benefit from asking all the happy employees who haven't yet reviewed you as an employer to get on there and help make that reflection a little bit more accurate of what it's like working with you, because the scores can have a big impact on candidate throughput.
That makes a lot of sense. Caralie, did you have anything?
No, I think that was great. And that just started me to think about the application. So you're maybe getting the clicks, but what if people aren't applying, or they're dropping off? So you could have some issues that are scaring people away, and it could be the location, because you might be advertising in a different location than your job description actually says the job is, and that can significantly impact things when people open it up and start reading the description. It could be that you have really important details that are missing. People might be looking for information on the benefits, or the requirements might not be aligning with what they're really looking for. You could also be looking for too much of a unicorn. Maybe you have too many requirements and you're scaring candidates off because they're thinking that they're not checking the box of everything that it is that you want. On the flip side, if your job description is too short, it can seem really fake, like a scam. And so if candidates are starting to read the job description and it just doesn't seem real to them, you will likely lose people before it hits that application part of the process. And then if you have errors throughout your job description, that can also impact people. So you just want to be careful to make sure that you're really creating a great first impression for all those candidates that will see your job description and then decide based on that job description whether or not they want to put in the time to apply.
I like that you said it's the first impression. It's kind of the first impression that candidates get to your company, to this job, and to potentially being an employee with you. I think we all talked about some really great solutions that folks can do to kind of mend some of these issues they might have if this data is showing these issues. But we do have another Redefining Recruitment episode that I think answers a lot of these questions and could help people write really wonderful job descriptions that are getting these data points met. So I'll link that in the show notes. But I think the next thing that someone could be concerned about is if someone's not even submitting applications. Maybe they've started the applications, they've clicked on the job description, they've gone through that process, but then applications aren't actually being submitted. What might that data point suggest?
So to me, that means that we're losing them somewhere in the process, and it might be because the process is too difficult, or we're scaring them away with our expectations. So you want to make sure that you're not asking too many application questions, especially open-ended ones that require a lot of thought and just time to come up with cohesive answers to. People might save the application for later, and then in the meantime, find other jobs that are a lot easier to move forward with. And that kind of ties into the too many questions, but also too difficult of a process. If you're getting people's resumes, but you're asking them to fill out a bunch of questions that then just readdress everything that's in their resume, you may lose people because they just don't want to spend the time going through that process.
I saw a post on LinkedIn from someone I had a conversation with years ago. That was a little bit of an event, and HR directors need events sometimes, but it's kind of like, tip to applicants looking for jobs, set up your voicemail box if you want a job, because if you don't have your voicemail box set up, maybe you don't want the job. And what went through my head is like, or you could send the applicant an email. It's that HR person prefers to pick up the phone and call. And so they've decided they're going to filter out that candidate because they didn't have a voicemail set up and didn't happen to pick up the phone at that moment. And maybe voicemail being set up is a good indicator for that specific type of job that the candidate is good or not good for the job. Likely not the case. And you just want to figure out, are the filters that we're implementing conscious decisions that are actually improving the quality of our candidates, or just accidental reasons why potentially really good talent's going to fall over the sides and not get to our higher point?
Kind of like you want to cast that wide net. I think we talked about that in another episode, but you don't want to filter too quickly. You need to filter some, but not too much. But if this process is too long and too lengthy, if it requires cover letters and other things, I know y'all have opinions on cover letters, maybe it's just too much for applicants, and then they could find a job that of equal value elsewhere with less kind of process to go through.
Yes, because they don't know how great of an employer you are yet. And so it's they'll just go for the process that makes it as easy as possible for them to get a job they're excited about.
Is there a value in having a little bit of a lengthier application process to kind of filter out candidates? Are y'all saying like just make it as easy as you can, or are you saying just don't make it 15 steps?
It all depends. And I think Caralie and I would probably give the same exact answer. It's a matter of what is the market for your candidates. And so an example that maybe you want a lengthy filtering process or a stricter filtering process might be where you have a national remote search for a role where there's tons of candidates. And you can actually choose to be much more selective and use the filtering process to identify candidates who might be more motivated to figure out how to get through something in their work from home. Is maybe the best argument I could think of for why you might want to filter candidates. But most of the time, at least the clients that bring us on board, they're having trouble filling roles that are local, that have a very specific skill set necessary. And the goal is to just be really focused on, do we need to filter for this right now, or should we not be filtering for this right now?
Okay, so let's say people are applying. They're going through whatever lengthy or short process you have, but they're just not the people you need. You finally get these applicants, they're going through the process, but they're just not who you exactly wanted, or the candidates just aren't matching up the skill set. What could that data point mean?
Yeah, I'd be looking to see, is there a theme? Is there something that they all have in common that's driving them towards us? And they're all maybe missing one particular thing. And if that's the case, are our screening questions potentially not set up properly? Or is our job description appealing to the wrong people and we need to make some adjustments to make it more clear who we want to go after? And so it's just trying to figure out why they're the wrong people and then brainstorming those fixes for that.
I think it shows how important that initial job description is, because it can even affect, the candidates who are applying, and that may add a whole nother process and you got to go back and redo it. So it's really important to nail it the first time. Patrick, do you have anything to add, or do you have perhaps a solution, if applicants aren't exactly who you need?
I think it's just reviewing the qualifications and really figure out, what are you signaling to the candidates out there. I will share that sometimes when I'm talking to people who don't do a lot of recruiting, they initially get overwhelmed by the amount of seemingly non-logical applications to their jobs. And so I guess a word of warning, it's expected that you're going to get a bunch of people. You're like, why is this happening? And that's, I think, what Carolie's pointing out to, is there a pattern? The random individuals who may or may not be paying attention to the job they're applying for, don't let them make you think that you're putting the wrong signals out. But if you're trying to find, an operations person and everyone seems to not have operations experience, maybe there's something in your job description that's causing that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so next step. Let's say you're getting these applicants, they're filling out applications, but then now you can't get them to respond to your screening method. You're trying to reach out and call them or email them, and they're just not responding. What could that mean?
It's just like Patrick mentioned, perhaps you're reaching out in the wrong way. So perhaps you're only calling candidates, but they don't check their voicemail or they screen out unknown numbers. And so it's making sure that you're reaching out to people in a variety of mediums. So figuring out, do they want to communicate by phone or email or even text? Some candidates just prefer to text. It's very easy. It could also be that you took way too long to decide to reach out to them. So candidates move quickly, especially there are some roles when they're lower level that candidates get scooped up very quickly. And so if you've waited a couple days or a couple weeks, those candidates might be long gone. So you just want to make sure you can adjust your process if you're losing people to potentially your speed just not being fast enough.
And if it's helpful, internally, we try to hold the team to a standard of reaching out to candidates within a day of an application if they're qualified. And so it really is move fast. It's not, it can be difficult if you're like, oh, every Thursday I review the applicants and reach out, especially with lower level roles. That week can be the difference between filling a role and not filling a role.
Is there a thing as moving too fast? If you're reaching out too fast and say, okay, now you got to get this interview and do this and this and this, can that push candidates away or kind of be too much too soon type of thing?
I mean, I feel like there's been the very rare instance where we've had a candidate say, hey, I didn't know things were going to move this quickly, and it freaked them out. But for the most part, it's not like dating where you need to play a game and play it cool. Letting candidates know that you're interested can definitely be a good thing and can help drive that interest in your opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's very rare that making someone feel very special and very wanted in this environment is a bad thing. It might give a candidate a potentially false sense of negotiating power, but that can be cleared up with a very, straightforward conversation when you get to that stage. I think the one thing I'll share is sometimes employers might try to go too fast in the wrong way. So, hey, can we set up an interview right now? That's video based. And the candidate might be like, I don't have the setup for video right now. I can't do that. And so maybe it's one of those things, we feel it out. Like maybe a phone-based first interview would be a great way to establish a relationship and give them time to get an environment where they're comfortable presenting themselves on video. So it can be, use the right mechanism within the right time. But I'm all about connecting with people as quickly as possible. If they hit the apply button, they're likely really excited and genuinely interested in the role.
That kind of leads into the next data point we wanted to talk about, which is if candidates aren't showing up for interviews. I'm assuming maybe it could have just been a video interview too fast, or what are some other data points you think that this means?
There's a variety of things that could happen. It could be that perhaps they looked at your reviews online and they found out that they're not that interested in working for you based on some negative reviews. It could be, like we had chatted about, that maybe it took a little bit too long, and so they're moving on to other opportunities at this point. Could be that, depending on it, maybe you have like a brief conversation before you invite them into interview. Maybe you didn't sell them enough during that brief conversation, or something didn't sit right with them. And so as a result, they're not that interested in continuing the process. So you want to make sure, candidates are interviewing you just as much as you're interviewing them throughout every step of the process. So you want to make sure your communication is clear and professional, and that your conversations with them are really trying to sell them on the opportunity. So overall, it could be one of those issues where it's just you and not them.
Yeah, I think candidates, feel really vulnerable during this process. They're putting themselves out there, and I think can be quick to feel hurt in some way, which it might be, I don't know if that's the right word. And so, if you're having someone apply for a VP level role and you have that really fun summer intern calling to do the screening interview, that can hurt a potential VP's feelings, where they're like, are they not taking me seriously? Or if you have so-and-so who's not busy because no one's giving them projects internally handling screening questions, but they're not the most engaging social person, that can give them a complete misread to your organization's culture. And you just really want to think about, are you putting your best foot forward to not only screen this individual, but to get them excited and leaning even more forward into your opportunity.
I like what y'all said about candidates are interviewing your company just as much as you're interviewing them, and part of that is they're going to check your online reviews, of course. If they're interested and they're doing the research, they're going to do that. And we have a webinar about that I think would be helpful, so I'll also put that in the show notes as well. But let's move on. Okay, so now we're getting applicants, we're getting interviews. Now, what if we want to offer someone a job, but a lot of those offers just are not being accepted? That is a significant data point, I think, that a lot of employers would want to pay attention to. What could that mean, though, about the job, the business?
Yeah. It's definitely a bummer when you put in the time to interview someone, get to know them, and then you present that offer and they're just not interested in it. So hopefully for your sake, you're getting some feedback if that is happening. Hopefully the candidates will tell you why, whether it's a competing offer or some situation in their life changed, because there can be a number of reasons. It could be that perhaps you tried to get too aggressive with the salary and you tried to kind of low cut them, tried to get a bargain, and that really turned them off. Some candidates will not negotiate with you if you come in too low on that initial offer, because they'll see it as completely insulting. And like Patrick said, you might be hurting their feelings, and there may be no way to recover from that. Could also be timing. Perhaps you just took too long to make up your mind to present that offer, and during that time their situation changed, or they got other offers. Maybe they even got a promotion at their current job. So if you have a candidate that you like, make sure that you're really moving quickly with them. And it also, sometimes if you don't have enough details in your offer, can be off-putting for some candidates. So maybe you didn't explain what the bonus might look like, or what the benefits are, or what the work situation is, in terms of expected time in office versus at home, or hours, or anything like that. So having something that doesn't seem complete enough can create some concerns with candidates and have them go elsewhere. I think when you're approaching the offer stage, it's really important to understand what's important to the candidate, because then you know what to put into the offer. So understand Why are they looking to make a move? What are they looking for? And, what's really important to them so that you can make sure that that's in that offer letter. And I'll pause there, and I'm sure there's plenty of other things, Patrick, that you can share as well.
I think if offers aren't accepted, I feel like there are only two major buckets that cause it. And one is, I think, a completely avoidable surprise. We weren't on the same page about something, about the pay, about the PTO, about the benefits, about the title. And those are things that should be covered and can be covered before you get to the offer so that you eliminate the element of the surprise. And so then the most likely reason why someone's not accepting an offer is the counter offer that they're getting from their existing employer. And I think the best thing you can do to serve yourself and potentially the candidate is, while you're leading up to the offer, really understand why they're leaving their current job, and make sure that your situation addresses that truthfully, genuinely. You can be a better opportunity, but also remind the candidate that they are leaving for a reason. And while maybe getting that 5K more than you offered in the counter, with people they know and it feels comfortable, might seem appealing in the moment, but hey, is this something you're going to regret 3 months from now when you look at the person who fills this job here and wish you were doing that job? And I think so. Just having a real understanding, eliminating surprises, I think, can help offset the not accepting offer situation.
Yeah, definitely go over everything with the candidate before that offer is even on the table. That way, everyone kind of knows exactly what they're getting into. And I think, again, this points back to having a really good job description, right? Because then you're upfront about exactly what is included in this position, be it pay and benefits, and what your roles and responsibilities will be, for sure. So this kind of segues in a sense to our next and last data point is, if candidates aren't even showing up to the job, or they're quitting really quickly. It's great if someone can accept this, but maybe they just didn't understand exactly what they were getting into and immediately ditch and quit the job. If this is happening, one, ouch, that seems awful, but what might it point to?
Yeah, not a fun situation to be in. And I always get really nervous when I see that a start date is set really far out, because it just leaves so much time for so many other things to happen. Life changes can still happen during that time gap. More exciting opportunities may come along, or they might kind of forget about their excitement about the opportunity if you don't make them feel excited and welcome enough about that opportunity. Now, whether the start date's a month plus out or next week, you always still want to make sure that you're making them feel excited and welcomed before they actually join. But those are some of the things that I think about when people aren't showing up on that first day.
Yeah, there's no harm in sending the occasional note. We're excited that you're joining, in 3 weeks. Any questions, and then, hey, it's only 2 weeks out. Anything come up where everyone's really getting ready to welcome you here? Just those little notes, the human element, and then setting them up for success, making sure that when they show up, they feel like you're actually prepared and you want them to succeed, and are setting aside the time to get them up to speed in a way they can succeed. I think, Caralie, you had found some stats that are really interesting on this front.
Yeah, I found some stats that really blew my mind. And that was that 31% of employees have quit a job within the first 6 months. And of those employees, nearly 1 in 5 quit in their first month, and 17% left after the first week. So just talk about potential terrible first weeks on the job when people are deciding right away that they don't want to go back.
Yeah, I think mind-blowing to us, because luckily we're not seeing those types of stats when we're working on searches. But also, I imagine that there's the earlier stage in someone's career or job, I think, are probably going to see higher instances of these situations. But you can set people up for success, get them excited about the role, get them engaged really quickly to offset some of that natural tendency for people to be like, what did I sign up for?
Make sure you have a well thought out onboarding plan so they realize that you're ready for them to start, and so that you can just hit the ground running.
Absolutely. And make sure you're following all of these wonderful suggestions that you both have talked about, because that could lead to having a candidate fully prepared and ready to go, hit the ground running, and really, knock it out of the park. I just wanted to throw in that, while we don't see these types of quit rates, because we ensure, we filter out through all of our candidates and make sure it's the right fit for everyone, but we do have that 18-month guarantee, because listen, sometimes things happen, and having that 18-month guarantee for your placements is so important, so that in case this happens, the worst case scenario, in case it does happen, we do have that backup of that 18-month guarantee.